All right, we're back. Doodle doodle doo, doodle doodle dee, doodle doodle doo, deedle. All right, so live stream. I've been gone for a couple weeks, mainly because it takes a while for stories to pile up that I actually want to talk about. If there's nothing that interests me, then I'm just not going to be on YouTube. But I guess the past couple days has had some interesting stories out there, even today with the political stuff. So I figured, all right, well, the Marvel animation X-Men 97, that trailer came out today, so I'll talk about that. You got Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. There was that news. There's the Gina Carano lawsuit. There's that. And then, you could get into the political stuff. I think since last time I was here, there was the Tucker Carlson Putin interview. There's the stuff down in Georgia with Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, the district attorney and the prosecutor, and all the Trump stuff. What else? We got Biden and Ukraine, as usual, border stuff. So I could talk about all that. And yeah, so I don't know. I guess some Soulfinder updates, Soulfinder Volume 4. I could talk about that. I literally just got new art in from Rodrigo for Soulfinder Noctis Terrae about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. So that's good. And yeah, just nearing the finish line on everything. And I really just want to get the files formatted and then get with the printer and get all that done. So it's just all these little knick-knack paddywhacks that are the very last pieces of the puzzle before I got to get everything formatted. Point of Light Productions, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Did you see when Biden broke into a family's house with a burger? I did not see that. I have no idea what that is. But I will look into it. I don't know what the Biden Burger Gate is. So, but I will look into it. So anyway, we got a lot to look into. Pascal's wager is it a good decision to make him Mr. Fantastic? Is it not? So I won't play all this, but I just had a couple initial thoughts about the X-Men thing, because my age group, I was actually just like a tad technically, if you if you were not a comic book fan or something along those lines, I was like a little too old for I was like in that age where like you should be like, I'm not watching X-Men or whatever or something like that. I still watched it because I was just like, this is a cool cartoon, man. I'm gonna watch this thing. But people that were not into comics when I was younger, I was like just at that cusp where it was just like, oh, you're really watching X-Men cartoons, Doug, or something. Like, yes, it's actually pretty cool. So yeah, so here's the new stuff. Now we'll watch it first, then I'll share a few opinions. So
we have to stay vigilant. The professor entrusted us with his dream.
All right, so long story short, I'm not an animation expert by any means. I can't articulate exactly what's going on and what school of art theory that people went to and what's going on. All I know is the animation in this looks a little I don't know. There's something a little off to me. Like it reminds me of like that Archer cartoon from a while, which is fine. I mean, I watched Archer too. But like, I don't know. There's something different about it that like maybe it would take a while for me to get used to. I don't know.
No matter how dark it is, we must believe in each other.
We get this done by working together as a team.
Jeez, Bob, keep buzzing in my ear.
Ken Cummings. We can see, Doug. So yeah, Wolverine, that's another one where maybe it's just, it would take getting used to, but the voice to me is a little, I don't know. I don't know if they could, maybe I'm just being picky because I'm going back in time and comparing it, and it's never going to be the same. So it's just like, something about the, something about the voice is just going to be like kind of weird. So, oh, you can see me. Yeah, no, I'm actually on the camera today. Although my room might not look so, I guess it doesn't look too bad behind me, but I got like books all over the floor and all of that. So, yeah, so Wolverine voice, I guess I could get used to it if I was going to watch it. But long story short, oh, then the other thing that was going on with this, I heard there's already stuff online about Morph being non-binary. I guess you would be able to be like, well, Morph, non-binary because Morph, or I don't know, something along those lines. But to me, that's a red flag. And also just the fact that it's Disney and Disney Plus, and it's 2024, and knowing what we know about the creators, there's only so many times that they can bait and switch you before you're just like, you know what? I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna have like the first 2 episodes are gonna be okay, and then at some point in time, you're gonna switch it up on me, and you're gonna do all sorts of like weird stuff, and you're gonna start doing the more. I don't know. There's something. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. One way or the other, you're gonna find a way to do it. So, let's see. I guess the other thing is just the question: do I really want to go back in time? Can you go home again? And so I'm closing in on 45 years old, and I was definitely pretty young when X-Men came out in 97. So, but not that young. So, actually, in 97 is when I graduated from high school and I went into the military. So, yeah, so I was 18 years old, or depending on when exactly it came out, 17 years old. And I don't know, there's just a part of me that was just like, if I thought that they were going to actually do it justice, if I thought that it was going to be like people that really truly loved the original and they wanted to revisit it but also move it forward simultaneously. Oh, 97. Okay, so I don't know, I was a teenager, high school or whatever. If I really thought that they were going to do it justice, then I would be okay with it. But I really feel like you're going to get sucker punched if you watch this. And also, I'm not going to pay if it's on Disney Plus and I would have to pay for it. I'm just not going to pay for Disney Plus. All these streaming services, I don't even know all the ones that they have out there. I'm not paying for any of those. The only show that I would still pay to see these days is the last season of Stranger Things. When that comes out, I'll pay to see that. Because I did like the previous seasons. Even there was, I forgot which season it was. It was like 2 or 3, whatever it was. I think it was 2. It was not as strong as the first season, but it was still good. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll see the reaction that other people have when they watch this, because I'm just not going to watch it. And I just have a feeling there's a high probability that a couple episodes in, they're going to start injecting the politics in there, and it's going to be not what you expected it to be. And then people are going to be angry, and just more of the same old. Let's see. Point of Light Productions as X-Men 97 looks good. So yeah, let me know. Circle back with me. Let me know what you think when it comes out. I won't be watching it. So if it was like for free on YouTube at some point in time, I probably would do that, but I'm not going to pay for it. Let's see. Captain Cummings. I only do one streaming service at a time right now. I have Crunchyroll. Point of light, I don't even care about the politics anymore. LOL. I mean, if it was a good story and it just happened to have like politics, woven to the fabric of it, that would be one thing. But if you're just sucker punching me with stupid stuff, then yeah, I think that's not cool. And not a fan of that. So boom. All right, so that's that. All right, Pedro Pascal. Let's see, is there a picture here? We'll pull it up. So Pascal's wager. Here we go. IGN, I guess. Whatever. Fantastic Four. Why Pedro Pascal could be the MCU's new Robert Downey. Yeah, right. I didn't even see it. This is like the first time I'm seeing this. No, not gonna happen. I would be shocked. I'm not really a betting man, but if I were a betting man, I would bet that he's not going to come close to Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man in terms of nailing it. I just don't see it. John Krasinski. I didn't even watch I haven't watched any of the Marvel movies since all the Thanos stuff wrapped up. So I am out of the loop on a lot of this. And at this point in time, I'm almost like an outsider looking in. And I'm just like, I'm not seeing it. So Point of Light says, I like Pedro. So he might be a perfectly fine actor, but he just reminds, like, this casting to me reminds me of a global marketing check off the box sort of stuff. So it's just like, okay, well, we want this movie to do well overseas and like around the world. And Pedro is, he's got the credentials to blah, blah, blah. So we're going to put him in there, even though I don't see him as Mr. Fantastic. I just see him, and I think Disney producers associate liberal globalist men with intelligence and genius, and that's not true. So like in their mind, they're just like, oh, he's like a political activist guy and he's liberal, so therefore he's really smart. So then if we put him on the screen, other people will know that he's a genius and he's smart, because only geniuses are outspoken liberal activists, and that's what Pedro is. So he's the ideal guy to be Mr. Fantastic, because all geniuses are liberal or something along those lines. I don't know, because I don't see him as Mr. Fantastic. But again, if you like Pedro and you go to see this movie, let me know. Circle back. I would say there is a 98% chance I do not see this movie ever in my life. But I suppose in the off chance that it just looks totally insanely awesome, maybe. I don't know. Jim is here. I see Joy Behar as Mr. Fantastic. I don't know. So, and let's see. I guess going into the Disney stuff. Speaking to Disney, actually, Pedro's tied to that. There's the Gina Carano lawsuit. So, since I last streamed, it was announced that Elon Musk is funding Gina Carano's wrongful termination suit against Disney. If I am mistaken, let me know. Point of Light says I got to run, just leaving for work. Chat later. Sounds good. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. So I guess my question for Gina Carano is it worth it in terms of the time and money and the psychological toll that a lawsuit, even if somebody else is paying for it, it's going to take on you? So we know what Disney stands for. We know what they represent. We know that you, Gina Carano, were ridiculously fired, but is it worth a lawsuit? I guess maybe if somebody else is paying for it, and you don't have to do too much except provide statements here and there, provide emails back and forth, text messages. I guess in that sense, if it's coming out of a billionaire's pocket, maybe you're like, I can't really lose. They'll probably settle at some point in time. But in my mind, I just think on many levels, she already won. And if I were Elon Musk, I feel like Elon Musk is just doing this as a big fudge you to Bob Iger. And I'm not going to shed any tears over a lawsuit between Elon Musk. Like battling billionaires, it doesn't really bother me. And if Disney is stuck in a lawsuit over a ridiculous firing, I'm not going to like go to bat for them or anything. But I feel like if I were a billionaire, I would tell Gina Carano, how about if I just give you $10 million or whatever it is, and you and some quality directors can go out there and make really cool movies, and I will just fund like, I don't know, 1, 2, or 3 really cool movies with you in the lead. Find a really awesome writer, find a really awesome director who's willing to work with you, and we'll make it happen. We'll just do, that's what we'll do. I feel like that would be a better allocation of Elon Musk's vast resources than just getting into like a legal war with Bob Iger because 2 billionaires don't really like each other. So, but again, I'm biased, and as somebody who creates indie comics, obviously I would rather have content created than sitting in courtrooms putting money into the pockets of lawyers. All right, I think that's pretty much it that I have on Pedro Pascal on Disney. Is there anything else I have on there? Let's see. Captain Cummings. I see Whoopi Goldberg as the Invisible Woman because I never watched The View. Actually, since I left the newspaper, I am so glad that I do not have to be up on ever monitoring what Whoopi Goldberg says, because everyone. So stories with Whoopi Goldberg or Joy Behar, whenever they would say something stupid, people would want, those are stories, if you wrote them up, they would do really well traffic wise. But the problem for me is I didn't want to write something up just for the sake of traffic. Like there needed to be, if I wrote something up, I wanted it to be because it spotlighted some sort of salient point, or it was interesting on a cultural level, on like a broader level for some reason. And I didn't want to just do stories just for the sake of traffic. And that was something for many years where I struggled with it, because you know that something could shoot up in the Google algorithm and on the website, and it could be the top go-getter. Everybody's reading it. But then at the same time, you're just like, but am I just contributing to the problem here? I feel like, why am I on some level elevating Joy Behar when she's just kind of stupid and a mean old lady? So I like to do military technology stories. I like to do stuff on artificial intelligence. I like to do things on biohacking and gene editing and drones and whatchamacallit, any sort of advances in technology that were led by DARPA and all that sort of stuff. So, but a lot of people didn't read those. They said that they wanted those types of stories, but then they really didn't. They wanted to read about Joy Behar a lot of the times, and so it just bothered me. Jim says, with that attitude, it's clear you don't understand journalism. I'm losing track of what part of my commentary you're responding to. But yeah, modern journalism, they just go after the clicks, and that's what they want. Click, 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 click. And I definitely did not want to just do clickety click clickaroo stuff. And yeah, so I had a really good boss for a long time, and he just kind of let me do what I wanted for the most part, but I didn't have full autonomy. And then when my boss left, then the knives came out, and then they were coming for me, and they were trying to get me to just do the dumbest stuff, and I quit. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not going to do this. So, Godful Universe, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, man. Looking forward to your book. I know like the digital, I think the digital copies were ready, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't really, I generally try and stay away from the digital stuff if possible, and I would rather just wait for physical copies for things. The same thing happened with Butch Killigan. I have access to the digital copy, but I told Sven like weeks ago, I was like, hey man, if I don't talk about the book, it's because I'm holding off for the physical copy. That's what I want. I'm kind of like more old school in that sense. And yeah, so, but I am looking forward to your book, and I'm glad I backed it. Actually, speaking of backing books, this is a little interesting. So I saw this the other day. Apparently, so I don't even follow that Star Wars girl, but this showed up in my feed. Is I guess she was in a Brazilian bookstore, and Red Rooster of all the books showed up in some sort of bookstore there. So and it has Mark Pellegrini's name on it. So because I have a history with this, I've said before that that's funny, man. Here we go. I was asked to read and critique the original script by Mark. I did it one weekend while I was still working at the newspaper. I kind of feel like a guy who was shown a unique diamond that I wanted to show, wanted the world to see, but then the owner decided to show the world something else. So I normally don't talk about Red Rooster stuff, but because I actually critiqued Mark's script at the behest of Mitch Breitweiser, he came to me and asked me if I would look it over and critique it. And I spent hours of my free time one weekend doing that. And then we talked on the phone for probably an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours or so. And regarding my feedback and all of this sort of stuff. So because I actually saw what it could have been before Mark was let go from Allegiance Arts, it's very interesting to me. So Mark wrote, because people were asking him about this, I wrote an initial script, but it was completely rewritten by another author. So none of my dialogue appeared in the published book, and most of my story was changed. I'm rather surprised that they're putting my name on the cover with how little of my contributions were retained. So all this stuff is very interesting to me because I don't even know. I haven't talked to Mark about this. I haven't talked to Tim about this. But these are my initial thoughts as I'm seeing this. If Mark did not want to have anything to do with this in terms of writing credits, why is his name on the Brazilian copy? Because you have to think that it was translated and then published like long after the fact. And it must have been after Mark said like, hey, I didn't write this. This is not me. This is not even my story. You changed so much of it that like, it's not mine. Please don't put my name on it. So they did put his name on it. So then the question is, like, is Mark entitled to some sort of compensation because they're putting his name on it? And, or does Mark have some, like, speaking of Gina Carano and like legal stuff, would Mark want to be like, hey, my name shouldn't be on there. You know, it shouldn't have been on there. You put it on there anyway. I literally don't want anything to do with this because it's not mine. It's dishonest to say that I wrote it. Like, but it's on there now. So what does he do about it? It's all very interesting to me. So I don't know. Who knows if anything more will come of it or whatnot. But yeah, very interesting. Now, also, Wayback Machine, not too way back. What I thought was interesting is a couple years ago, during all the Hut stuff, the Brightwisers put out some weird statement saying, I'm paraphrasing here. Like, I always kind of knew those iconic comic guys were like bad dudes or something like that. And they even did some YouTube interview. I have not seen the YouTube interview, but I know that they did some sort of YouTube interview or something along those lines. And basically saying the same thing. But all of that was a lie. So they literally like put out a statement saying, like, just whole cloth believing what the comic book Hut said when he was just lying out his butt, lying out the wazoo. And you're just like, dude, like, really? So Mitch, if you're out there, if you're watching, Mitch, the comic book Hut was a liar. And I have shown over the course of 2 years that he was a liar. I have dropped countless receipts showing that he was a liar. And yeah, so if somebody comes to me and says like, hey, Doug, a large YouTuber is saying that your Soulfinder books are gay. What do you think about that? And if I respond to that email or that request for comment and say like, that's mean. Somebody who says they don't want trouble with me, but then they call Soulfinder books gay, I think that person's kind of a jerk. I'm allowed to do that. That's not quote unquote gay ops. If somebody says, hey, Doug, some YouTuber said that you were in a conspiracy with Preston Poulter to destroy Allegiance Arts. What do you think about that? If I respond to that inquiry from one of my own readers and say like, that's not true, that's a lie, that's a scumbag thing to do, that's not ops. That's me responding to somebody who lied about me to thousands of people. So again, Mitch, if you're out there, yeah, you putting out statements saying that iconic comic guys are bad dudes over stuff that's like not even true. Not cool, dude. And you know what else is not cool? Putting Mark Pellegrini's name on the Brazilian translation of Red Rooster when you know he didn't want his name on the book and didn't want to be known as the writer of this version of Red Rooster. So, let's see. Neostar Productions Reisman is here. Thank you for tuning in. Godfo, it's a shame the drama that exists in these spheres, man. We're all adults. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, it was so funny to me when he put out that statement about iconic, because I was just like, it's literally not even true, man. Like, it's just like a giant mountain of lies. Like, yeah, this guy asked me questions, and yeah, I responded to his questions. But like, in terms of like some sort of like Conan O'Brien sort of like laughter, like like that's just blatantly false. That's I don't know. I was just like, this guy, the guys that he's going to bat for took endless swipes at him over and over and over and over again. He never said, he didn't have crap to say about them, but a total lie about iconic comics. Like, yeah, we're gonna put out a statement saying how the iconic comic guys suck. All right, well, you're believing lies. Very interesting, very interesting. So, all right, so there's that. All right, what else do we got here? Boink. All right, do we want to go to Fannie Willis? Do we want to go to Tucker Carlson? Do we want to go to book stuff? So, Soulfinder related news. So the credits page is done. I know you're like, wow, it's a credits page, Doug. Like, yeah, ooh, big deal. Well, it's important in that it's the penultimate step that I have to getting the book off to the printer. So stuff like this is like, it's not hard to do, but it's another one of these like, nuts, man. Like, it just takes a little while, and you got to make sure it's done right, and you got to make sure it looks, this is the first thing that, you know, people are opening the book. It's like right there. So you want to make sure that it looks good. It looks sharp. It's good to go. So that's good. Now I just need to write the afterword. And then once the afterword is written and plugged in, then I got to format the books for the printer and make sure it's divisible by 8. I hate the divisible by 8 rule. It's like the most annoying thing in the world, because I was doing the math yesterday and I'm basically off by a couple pages. So I need to make sure I put something in there so the end sheets look right and are lined up correctly. And then the double page spreads are, where they're supposed to be. And then I got to get like bonus art properly. And I'm still like a couple things short. So now I'm like, crap, dude. Like, I have to make sure I put good content in there so it's divisible by 8. Because if I don't, then the printers are going to give me a hard time, because that's what they like, or they're going to charge me more. So like, it's all this like little tiny annoying stuff where you're just like, oh crap, I'm 3 pages short. So how am I going to fill these 3 pages in a way that actually makes sense? So yeah, you can see the frustration on my face as you're getting towards the finish line, like all this sort of stuff. But this is why I didn't want to launch a campaign before all of this sort of stuff was done. I wanted to have all the stress taken off the table, and that way the risk is completely minimized for the people that are interested in actually buying and reading and possibly reviewing and sharing the books and all that sort of stuff. But the divisible by 8 rule just really ticks me off. Can't stand it. All right, so let's see. Tucker, Kevin, thanks for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. Longtime supporter of Soulfinder. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so we'll go through this. Actually, you know what? One last comic booky thing. So sometimes people ask me about, speaking of like, who is it? Godpo was talking about drama earlier. It's been months now, and they have this drama where it's like CG versus Rippaverse versus Iron Age and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, hey, what do you think about this? And what do I think about it? I think, thank God I am with Iconic Comics. Like, thank you, Lord, for separating me from these people that are constantly cannibalizing each other, constantly at each other's throat, constantly creating new boogeymen, constantly creating new strife between this guy and that guy, and we got to stream about this guy for like hours upon hours, and it just goes like, it won't stop. It's like the weirdest thing ever. And I'm so glad that I'm in a place where I can just literally just do my books. And when I want to come on YouTube, I'll come on YouTube. If I want to talk about a story, I will. If I want to disappear for 2 weeks at a time and then come back and say hello, then I could do that. But I'm under no obligation to come on day after day after day finding. I think that's a lot of the problems that people have, is because they need content. They feel deep down that they need to have something entertaining to talk about. And people like car crashes, people like train wrecks, people like all sorts of the bum fights, indie comics bum fights, essentially. And so if they don't have something to talk about, they will create something to talk about. And I am so glad that God, in his infinite wisdom, separated me from people that would just, they're just constantly fighting all the time with somebody, somewhere, someplace. There's always some bad guy that needs to be hoisted up and, throwing tomatoes at that guy, put him in the stocks, all of that. And you're just like, dude, this is like, I mean, once in a blue moon, I understand it, but it's constant. It never ends. You're just like, this is kind of psycho. Like, this is really weird. So Neo Star Productions. I thought the Iron Age was supposed to be an era, not a group. Yeah, so I guess there's arguments over that, and I don't know all the deals, but like I know enough to know that there's now friction between all these various groups and people that go under the umbrella and people, all this. And I'm like, okay, well, good luck with your streams day after day after day after day. Neostar, I feel you. My own book is almost finished too, and I can't wait for things to finally get wrapped up. Yeah, I felt bad because somebody actually asked me about books and all of that the other day, and I had to tell him like, hey man, I can't do it. Where is it? I'll try and find it real quick. Let's see. Ash Wednesday was yesterday. Joe Biden. All right. Bloodsport. Where is it? There was a guy who asked me. Oh, okay. Here we go. So Mike Waring, who's a very nice guy, Soulfinder reader, regularly shares stuff. He was saying many creators have been especially kind as I collect and interact with their material, even with criticism. Doug has been especially good to interact with. So many thanks, etc., etc. Yeah, my thing is if somebody reviews your book and they don't like it, you always have the option of just totally ignoring them. And for the most part, since I started Soulfinder, if somebody has not liked the book, I just have not said anything. Or if I did say something, I just said, hey, thanks for taking time to review the book. I'll take constructive criticisms into account and work to improve on those things. That's true. That's literally true. So I don't need to get into a fight with people over the only thing that really ticks me off when I see certain reviews is when somebody did not read closely. There is something that is explicitly addressed in the book, and they say that it was not addressed in the book. And like that actually ticks me off because it's like they're telling an audience something is wrong when they are literally wrong. And then if I start arguing with them, then I look bad. So I have to just sit there and hold my tongue as hundreds or possibly thousands of people hear something that's not right. So for Black Tide, there was a review where Crane is holding a his cell phone out and taking a picture. Crane is a black dude. He's got black hands. So you see that it's black hands with a camera taking a picture. And therefore, even though you don't know, you don't see Crane's face, you know it's Crane because he's literally the only black guy in the scene. And also you can see that he has his Soulfinder, his priestly uniform on with the red trim or whatnot. So there was a review where it was just like, this was confusing. I didn't know who was taking the picture. Who was this? I don't know. The guy who's black, the only black guy in the entire book whose name is Father Crane. I don't know. And it's not like his hands looked white. No, he looked like it was a black guy. So things like that like really annoy me. But even with that, I have not said a word. And that's the thing is they will say they're confused, but then they didn't even put up the panel so people can see. Why did they not put up the panel? I don't know. But if they put up the panel, then their own viewers would have been like, how are you confused? It's a black guy. There's only one black guy in Doug's series, and it's Father Crane. So maybe you just have problems with reading comprehension or understanding visual cues or something along those lines. So these are the things that I would love to say, but I don't. I generally don't. But because it's years ago, now I'm like, you know what? And I'm not calling out the dude by name, but those are the things that irritate me. Anyway, let's see. Where is it? Where's the guy? Oh, yeah. So Kevin here, who's been a very nice guy to me. I don't know anything about him other than he shares my tweets and likes tweets and all this sort of stuff. He says, I'll be knocking at your DMs to ask for your advice on getting stuff printed and Kickstarter soon. So this is where I felt horrible because I had to tell this guy, that's not happening, dude. Like, I'm sorry. I said, were you around in 2022, you know, with the hut stuff? I had a very bad experience trying to answer someone's Kickstarter questions when asked via DM, so that door is unfortunately unavailable these days. I've been blamed for campaign failures and literally had lies made up as to the advice I gave. People do get mad at me for this new policy, but I have been seriously burned too many times. I tell creators to blame dishonest men. This is why we can't have nice things. Amazing Gaming Productions, who's also been very nice to me for a long time now, says, oh man, no good deed ever goes unpunished. At least you're right up front about the no. That's way better than never getting an answer. So I hate that I sometimes have to tell people no, and then I have to like kind of say why. And where is it? Blah, 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 blah. And then I went into it. I said, it's tough to see dishonest videos with 14,000 views now deleted to cover their tracks with an audience that heard total lies about you, and then to witness throngs of people disseminate the lies privately to try to destroy friendships, business projects, etc. But it was also an insane blessing. I am so thankful for it because it taught me a lot about people, who I am, how I was naive, my true friends, and what I need to do to accomplish my long-term goals. So, yeah, so the 2022 smear campaign sucked butt because there were literally videos, 14,000 plus views, disseminating like total lies, just straight up total lies. And then I had to deal with that. And I had people contacting my friends, contacting my business partners, trying to get people at Iconic Comics to sever ties with me, saying that I was a bad person, blah, 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 again and again and again. They didn't have the courage, or they didn't have the, I don't know, the gall to actually ask me, they come at me, but no, they had to go around me, and they went to people that I know and that were in my orbit and who I was working with, and they tried to tear down my business relationships. They tried to tear down friendships that I had with guys at Iconic Comics. Very interesting, very interesting. So yeah, that was like a rough time. But anyway, it just stinks that people, young creators. Now, here's the thing. I will, if it's a general enough comment, I will say certain things about crowdfunding in terms of, hey, you need to prioritize budgeting. You have to be on top of the accounting for sure. Do not take the math lightly. You need to think about how much all these things are going to cost up front, because if you miscalculate on your budget, you're going to get yourself into a world of financial pain, and you don't want to do that. And so that was an instance years ago where Hut came to me, asked me about my advice about crowdfunding, and I pointed him out to multiple campaigns where the person asked for X amount of dollars just to game the algorithm. Like, say they asked for $500, but then the book ended up, the printing costs and the packaging and the color work and the lettering and the cover and all that's cost the person, you know, upwards of $10,000, $15,000. But this is a person that doesn't have the financial means to cover a $10,000 bill, a $15,000 bill. So I told him at the time, you need to do the math. You need to look at the numbers. You need to break all of this down, because the last thing you want if you're on a budget is to suddenly find yourself owing people a product and you are $5,000 in debt, or $10,000 in debt, or $15,000 in debt. You don't want that. That's a bad situation to be in for an indie comic. So, to me, telling somebody that you need to be on the ball as it pertains to budgeting and really, really, really think about it and do the math with, you know, find what are your real goals here? What are you trying to accomplish with this book? Do you want to sell 1,000 copies? Do you want to sell 2,000 copies? Do you just want to sell 50 copies? Do you just want to sell one copy to somebody who exists out there who believed enough in your work to buy it? I don't know. You have to determine those things for yourself. But then after you determine your goals, only you can define what success is. I literally told him that. Only you can define what success is. Once you have your definition of success, then you have to do the math surrounding that, and you have to figure out a way to get to that goal. So I was telling somebody recently that, how do I say this? There are people, everything, when I do a book, everything, I look at it like everything is in God's hands. So the only thing that I have control over is the effort that I put into the book. And if I do the best possible job that I can, and I put the best product forward that can exist in the world with my skill set and how I am able to manage teams. Once I put the book out in the world, maybe if God wants 1 million people to read my book, it's going to happen. If God only wants one person to read my book, but that person is going to take some lesson from my book that will help save their soul down the line or save another soul, then that's what's going to happen. So if God only wanted one person to get Soulfinder Tunnel Hounds, and that person, it saved their life or something like that, then that was the purpose of releasing the book. And that's what I care about. So I don't care about what it does after I release it into the world. The only thing I have control over is, did I put the best possible book out there that does justice to Matt Weldon and Rodrigo and Bill Williams and Dave Dorman and everybody who helped on the book, and whether it's Noctis Terrari, Eric Canetti, all of these guys, that's all I care about. But again, I'm setting the definition of success. I have a very specific definition, and therefore I can do the math around the books and come to that decision. So, David, while I do believe I'll get my books eventually from the crowdfunders I backed, I know I'll get my books from you. David, that I promise you, you will get, if you order or back, if I still haven't, so I said that I wanted to crowdfund the book. I still might change my mind on that. I might just put it on the Iconic Comics website because, speaking of God, speaking of prayers, I had a lot of prayers. I had a lot of conversations with God about Soulfinder, and some very specific prayers were answered of mine in terms of some financial stuff. And I might be able to just put it on the Iconic website. I don't know if I'll do it, but we'll see. But the point is I am doing my best to get the books as far along as possible where there's no stopping this train. It's going, or the bullet has been fired. It's out of the chamber. It's going down range. It's going to hit the target. Nothing can stop this now. And it actually is at that point already, because if I drop dead tomorrow or after on this stream or when I get off this stream, everybody involved with the process, including my wife, knows this book will be printed. It will be printed. So yes, David, if you get the next Soulfinder book or you order it, it's going to come to you. Hey, Al, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Anyway, I could talk about the crowdfunding stuff for like the longest time. But again, I just did. Kevin, if you're out there, if you're listening, if you hear this, if you see it, I am sorry that it has to be this way. But unfortunately, when people want to manufacture giant smear campaigns against me, where literally tens of thousands of people were lies were disseminated about me, I cannot go through that again. It was a blessing, true. But at least for the time being, I cannot take the chance to go through that again, because the psychological toll, I'm upfront about it, the psychological toll that it took on me to see people believe absolute lies about me and then fan out across the internet. To this day, I still get DMs. I still get tagged. People still contact my friends about this stuff. And it's still randomly here or there. I will see in random like YouTube comment sections or on Twitter, people will be like, yeah, well, Doug Ernst, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll just regurgitate lies. It takes a toll on you. It's very frustrating. So yeah, Captain Cummings, I talk with Hut every day for years, and everything Doug is talking about is true. That's the other thing, is like, I don't know. I could just go on and on. There's so much. It's been cathartic for me over like the past couple years to see people deleting their videos to try and cover their tracks, to see people deleting their old tweets at me, calling me all sorts of names because they had epiphanies. They're like, wait a second. Doug is showing X, Y, and Z. These guys are deleting all their stuff. Doug has never changed his story. You could spring it on him at 2:00 in the morning or 1:00 in the afternoon, and his story is always the same. Why does he always say the exact same thing? Because he's telling the truth. Oh, it's so crazy how if you're just telling the truth, you could extemporaneously just speak off the top of your head about it because you don't need to cover lies upon lies upon lies upon lies. You're not trying to cover it up and all this sort of stuff. You don't need to do it. So you could look at all of my streams from 2 years ago. You could look at them tonight. You could compare them. You could chop them up. You could put them together. I'm saying the exact same thing that I always said. It lines up. It's perfect. Meanwhile, all these other guys delete, private. Yeah. So why would you do that unless you're a liar? So yeah. Speaking about liars, we could go to Putin. We can go to Fanny. We could go to Joe Biden. We could go to all sorts of people here. All right. Putin interview. Speaking about journalism earlier, so the thing that I thought was interesting about the Tucker Putin interview was that a lot of so-called journalists were upset at the fact that he was merely talking to Vladimir Putin. This interview, in and of itself, before it even came out, they were upset about it. That's not journalism. That's propaganda. Maybe I'm repeating myself. I think I covered this right before it came out, but the actual interview itself wasn't out. So now we've actually seen the interview, which was quite long. I didn't watch the entire thing. I watched a huge chunk of it, and I learned a lot of Russian history, that's for sure. My thing is when you listen to Joe Biden talk about this, he puts forth a false dichotomy where Ukraine is good. They're little angels. They have little halos on their head. Putin, bad. He's the devil. He's satanic or whatever. Whereas the truth might be that Ukraine is filled with corrupt, bad dudes, and Vladimir Putin is also a bad dude who was a KGB agent, who was trained to lie, who was trained not to give away lies as he's talking, etc., etc., etc. What if you have a situation where you have bad and worse, or bad and really bad? Can we at least acknowledge that maybe Ukrainian officials, Zelensky and Vladimir Putin, are both pieces of Putin? Can we talk about that? And my question is why does there have to be a blank check written to Ukraine over and over and over and over again? $50 billion, $100 billion, $150 billion, $175 billion. If Ukraine is at war and they are essentially, for all intents and purposes, completely dependent on the United States to fund them to the tune of $100 billion, $150 billion, $200 billion, would it be fair to say that the United States is at war with Russia? If you were Vladimir Putin, again, KGB agent guy, past, trained professional liar, just like the CIA, Putin, bad guy, we get it. But would it be fair for Putin to conclude that the United States is at war with Russia if the United States is spending hundreds of billions of dollars in military equipment and firearms and missiles and satellite things and all sorts of stuff to defeat Russia? I think it is an accurate statement to say that the United States is at war with Russia. I don't know how you could really deny it. It's not like it's just like a shadow war. It's not like Secret Wars. It's out in the open war. And so where's the Joe Biden stuff here? Let's see. Where's Joe Biden? I mean, if you're just openly saying that the United States is the only thing that can, stop Russia and we need to stop Russia, feel like you're kind of at war with Russia. Is that a wise decision?
Earlier this morning, the United States Senate has power and control in Ukraine. He won't limit himself just to Ukraine. And the cost for America and our allies and partners are going to rise.
So Joe Biden is saying publicly that unless we give Ukraine and their corrupt officials, and this is out in the open too, this is not conspiracy stuff. These officials, their kids and their sons, they're taking the money that U.S. taxpayers are giving them, and it's funding lavish vacations. Their kids are showing up all over the world in the Mediterranean, partying at clubs, doing all this sort of stuff. Ukrainian officials are buying mansions in like Sweden and all over the place. Like, they're getting rich and they're just using the money for all sorts of strange purposes that have nothing to do with war. Very interesting. But Biden is saying that unless we continue to just keep sending billions and billions and billions of dollars, then Putin is going to somehow like go after Poland, even though there's nothing he's said or done up until this point indicates that he would do such a thing at all. It's very strange. And in fact, the person who keeps escalating the situation is Joe Biden. So if he does do, Joe, you guys are the ones that blew up a pipeline, a Russian pipeline that gave energy to Europe. You blew it up, dude. Like, I mean, if anybody is escalating the situation, it's literally Joe Biden.
For Republicans in Congress who think they can oppose funding for Ukraine and not be held accountable, history is watching. History is watching. History is watching.
Is history watching? I think history might be watching. Actually, no, history is not really watching. God is watching. And if God is watching, then you should tell the truth. But this guy doesn't tell the truth. He lies, just like Vladimir Putin, just like Zelensky. All three of these guys are liars, 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 liars. So no, history isn't watching. God is watching. And if God is watching, then we should tell the truth. And if we should tell the truth, if we are telling the truth, then you guys are funding and exacerbating a war that there's a high probability that it could spin out of control. One wrong move, or somebody reaches the end of the rope, and whose fault is it going to be? It's not going to be people that were telling you for years now that this is going to happen. It's your fault. So, all right. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. So, if they actually, how do I say this? The American people overwhelmingly want the border situation to be taken care of. What they could have done is a standalone border bill and address that first. And then afterwards, it would be like, okay, well, you actually took care of the border. Actually, he doesn't even need a border bill. He has the authority right now to shut down the border, but he's not doing that. But if we agree with the premise that he needs a border bill for some bizarre reason, they could have prioritized that first. Why would you not prioritize the U.S. border over the Ukrainian border? It's because you want millions and millions of illegals coming in here, because you then want to create the situation with mail-in votings, so that all of these millions of people that you allowed into the country, and you promised them that you would give them all sorts of entitlements and all this and that and the other thing, that they will then vote for you. You knew that, how do I say it? The demographics and the economic situation were not in your favor. So you just want, and you also know that in 2024, with technology the way it is, people are getting wise to what is going on. So when people are wise to what is going on, they're not going to vote for a guy like this. So what do? You need to import people that are totally ignorant of the situation, who literally don't speak the language. You need to divide the United States. So there's all these different factions and people can't talk to each other. They don't understand each other. But the only thing they understand is this guy's going to give me free stuff. And that's what you want. You want to import a voting bloc that will mindlessly just vote for you because they don't know anything else. They literally don't know anything else. And it's hard for them, being new to the country, to actually, it takes time. It literally takes generations in some sense to like figure out what the heck is going on. If they even care about what, the underlying principles. A lot of them don't even care. They just want to come here and they just want entitlements, but that's a whole other can of worms. Neostar Productions. At this point, it seems like Biden is paying for the conflict to continue, since apparently several $100 billion doesn't seem to be stopping the war. Yeah, they just keep turning on the money hose onto Ukraine, and they're saying we have to just do this. There's no coherent strategy in place. It's just we're just going to keep funding them over and over and over again, and we're going to hope that the whole thing, I've talked about it before, a lot of it's money laundering. I basically said my piece, but it's just sad that our quote unquote leaders are corrupt psychopaths, sociopaths. So, all right, last one here. I think Fulton DA Fannie Willis agrees to take the stand in motion. So this is more with the Trump stuff. Speaking of liars, this is, the district attorney and the prosecutor down in Georgia. They wanted to say that Donald Trump was trying to overthrow the election and this and that, the other thing. And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, Al Gore, way back in the day, I don't know if people are old enough, you're in the chat right now. Al Gore back in the day, he had issues with the election and he had an army of lawyers down in Florida. And they wanted to fight tooth and nail for hanging chads. If you remember that, there was people with papers and they were just like looking at the hanging chads. And they were trying, is this a vote for Bush or is this a vote for Al Gore? And you even had people back then with the paper ballots. They were essentially trying to say like, well, this one, we can't count it for Bush because it didn't, it's punctured, but we don't know that they actually punctured it for Bush. It could have just been accidental because it was paper. So Al Gore and an entire army of lawyers, they could challenge a presidential election. Yeah, no problem, whatever. But Donald Trump, in a situation where there was clearly shenanigans afoot with mail-in ballots and how they were put through the machines multiple times, toilet, bathroom pipes allegedly breaking and bursting. And really, it's just like, there was like a clogged toilet for an hour, but we had to close down voting in the middle of the night for 3 hours, and for 3 hours there was a total blackout. And then after we came back online, then in Kim Jong-il-un, Saddam Hussein fashion, the Democrat got 100% of the votes. For every 100,000 votes that were turned in, 100,000 of them roughly went to Joe Biden, and none of them went to Trump. No, it was totally on the up and up. There was nothing to be concerned about whatsoever. Totally honest people. And Trump lost. So just accept it. Let's move on. Joe Biden. So anyway, this lady and the prosecutor, to the tune of something, she's been paying this guy something like $700,000 total to essentially go after Trump on racketeering charges. They have been in a relationship. They benefit from going after Trump politically and all sorts of stuff, and money flows to them. They've been using taxpayer cash to essentially fund their own little love affair, going on yachts, going on vacations all over the place, cruises, all this sort of stuff. And now it's coming out, and I mean, the evidence is undeniable, and hopefully this gets thrown out. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with all of this, but once again, it proves whether you like Donald Trump as a person or not, whether you like his mean tweets or not, what they are doing to this guy is corrupt, because they are corrupt. They are liars. History is not watching. God is watching. Tell the truth. I think that's about it on my end. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I will be back in the near future with another live stream. I will continue to make incremental progress on Soulfinder Tunnel Hounds. I just got new art for Soulfinder and Noctis Terrari from Rodrigo Aviles today. It looks awesome. It's a penciled piece, and he's done painted pieces for Tunnel Hounds. I'm just getting my credits pages done. I'm just getting the afterwards done. Then format everything for the printer, get it to the printer, pay the printer, and then it's just a waiting game. Maybe I'll crowdfund it. Maybe I'll just put it on the Iconic Comics website. I don't know. I hate crowdfunding, but it is a way to get a lump sum very soon, because I want to give that lump sum to Matt Weldon so he could continue to do his thing on Soulfinder Volume 5, which he actually is doing right now, and I haven't even paid him a dime yet. And so, Matt Weldon, if you're listening, if you're out there, thank you. You know, as usual, I will pay you, and I will do my darndest to make sure that I pay you in a way that Marvel and DC would be like, ah, crap. We can't compete with that. We cannot compete with it. Doug is actually paying this guy a better page rate than we could pay him. Yeah, so take that, Marvel. Take that, DC. Suck it, Marvel. If you have talented people and they're willing to do stuff for you, you got to do whatever you can to let them know that they are appreciated. And I appreciate Matt Weldon so much. Matt Weldon has been a godsend, and I will never forget all the hard work that he is, all the talent that he is infused into Soulfinder. It would not be the same without Matt. It would not be the same without Timothy Lim, Eric Canetti, and everybody that's worked on Soulfinder. Anyway, Kevin, thanks for tuning in. Says Matt Weldon truly rocks. He does. Jeff Spokes. Jeff Spokes did this piece right here, but Jeff Spokes, DC's been giving him all sorts of work, and I get it, man. Like when DC comes to you and they're like, "Hey, you want to do Batman stuff?" You're gonna do Batman stuff. But Jeff Spokes has been another one. Super talented. So grateful for the work that he's given me over the years, lending his talent. Mr. X, pleasure as always, Doug. Pleasure to have you in the chat. Thank you again to everyone. Captain Cummings, thanks for tuning in. Anybody else I missed in the chat? AL, I saw you. Neo Star Productions, David, and anybody else from earlier on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you later. Thanks for spreading the word about Iconic Comics. Thanks for supporting Iconic Comics. You guys rock. See you later. See ya.